Let me just remind you of what Donald Trump said in 2018. I'm reading out from social media platform X, formerly called Twitter. The US has foolishly given Pakistan more than $33 billion in aid over the last 15 years. And they have given us nothing but lies and deceit. Thinking of our leaders as fools, they give safe haven to the terrorists we hunt in Afghanistan with little help. No more. What's changed, Pratik Chougule? What's changed since 2018, I beg your pardon?
Well, I'm glad you brought up Afghanistan. I've actually been surprised how little of that has been remarked on. Whether or not it was the correct decision, the U.S. decided to withdraw from Afghanistan. I disagreed with that decision, but the fact of the matter is, even after the withdrawal, Afghanistan has basically been under control enough that it's not an immediate priority on the U.S. agenda. I think it was more or less inevitable that that would be a game changer in U.S. relations with Pakistan. It makes sense that in light of the Afghanistan issue now being on the back burner, that there would be a U.S. effort to strengthen ties with Pakistan. Now, I don't think the right way to do that is to get into these crony crypto deals, but I'm not terribly surprised that there's been a readjustment in the relationship.
But Pratik, this is the problem, because, we ignore the fact that in 2000, there were hardly any military exports from the US to India. Today, that's figures at around 22 billion, if I'm not mistaken. Even when it comes to tariffs, the barriers and the percentages of those taxes have been lowered over a period of time. So, there's a lot of misinformation that's also coming out, from all of these statements from the United States, which says that India doesn't want to do business. It's a one-sided relationship. But it is a fact that these things take time. They don't happen overnight as, certain officials in the US might like it to happen. Pratik.
Madhav, you're absolutely right. Since 2008, India has imported weapon systems worth $28 billion, number one. Secondly, the amount of money the American consulting companies, the American big tech companies, the American banks make in India is to the tune of $80 billion in a year. The amount of American investments in terms of FDI and FII in the Indian market is nearly $500 billion. And the amount of money the American FMCGs and the automobile companies make in India is huge. And in spite of that, we are told that we are protectionist. We are not giving them space. More than 70 to 80% of the goods that enter to India from America have less than 10% duty. And in spite of that, there is a presumption that is created that we are the biggest enemies. We are the ones, responsible for Ukraine war, as if we invaded Ukraine. We are the ones who are taking oil from Russia, as if the rest of the world takes the oil from Mars and Uranus. It's a perception that is being created because as if we are initially they thought that we are a soft target. They will pressure us and we will open up our market of dairy, poultry, fisheries and agriculture, which employs more than 150 million people and their livelihood is dependent on that. And once we did not do that, once we did not succumb to the pressures, it was as if you were, you're looking for a scapegoat for your sheer inability.
It's the sheer hypocrisy of it. China, is a country that imports a huge amount of oil from Russia, far more than India does. The EU imports far more natural gas than India does. The US itself does $2.5 billion worth of trade when it comes to uranium, plutonium from Russia. But India is the one that has to be tariffed, Pratik Chougule. What's the logic in that?
Well, I think the logic is there are a few different things here. I think, to put it very bluntly, if you're looking at the big powers here, you're looking at Russia, you're looking at China, you're looking at others. The US-India relationship is not as important, not as significant as those other relationships. So if you're expecting perfect consistency out of the US, it's not going to happen. But I think that there is a high-level logic here, which is that the administration is prioritizing
a country that you claim
the Russia
to have
issue,
friendly ties with,
the China.
The least one would expect is lack of hypocrisy.
Your question is, you would expect a lack of hypocrisy from the US?
Absolutely. Because you suddenly impose a 25% tariff, you have Navarro calling it Modi's war, and you have other countries which in fact import a huge amount of energy from Russia. Why did you tax them?
This foreign policy by tariff that the Trump administration is doing, I don't agree with it. And I think that it is a misguided approach.
I'm very glad that you don't agree with all of that, despite being somebody who supports President Trump. We'll have to leave it there. Pratik Chougule.